Detroit hums like a machine that refuses to die. At night, the streets breathe steam, and my studio windows tremble when the freight trains turn by the river. I like the sound. Metal talking to metal. It reminds me that I can shape hard things. My name is Mari Reyes Mari, if we're friends and I bend steel for a living. 35. Southwest Detroit kid. Up and coming if you ask the blogs, too loud if you ask the purists, and stubborn if you ask anyone who's had to lift a half-ton armature with me at 2 in the morning. The week before everything cracked open, I thought I was finally crossing a line I'd been dragging my boots along for years. My first solo show, Foundry Hymns. At a white cube gallery in Midtown, with polished concrete floors and plants that look like they get better health insurance than I do. Vivian Lake Gallery owner, rings like the moon, hair like she never sweats, had found me at a street fair back in May. She stood in front of my piece, Engine Heart, tracing the air with 2 fingers. "It's ferocious," she said. "You need a space that can carry this kind of weight. I can give you that space." I said yes too fast. Of course I did. Detroit will teach you to keep your chin up while your stomach growls. The night of the opening, September heat clung to us like a second shirt. People swirled through the room, curators, art students with chipped polish, guys in linen who speak in funding cycles. The sculptures glowed under cold lights. Braided rebar twisted like river currents, welded copper feathers fanning above a base poured from crushed windshield glass. Every time I caught my reflection in the gallery window, I looked like a version of myself I'd been building since I was 12, when my dad showed me how to strike a bead with a welding torch and not blink. The first red dot appeared next to Skybridge. Sold. I tried not to cry. Then another dot. And another. Vivian touched my arm. "See, I told you, Mari. People are getting it." We clinked plastic cups of warm Prosecco. I let myself imagine rent paid on time, new TIG tips, maybe even that refurbished lift I'd bookmarked. I imagined calling my mom and hearing her say, "Mijita." I knew it. Around 9, a man with a careful beard cornered me by the installation with the bicycle chains. Loved my raw honesty. Loved my raw honesty. Loved my raw honesty. Loved my raw honesty. He whispered the way people whisper when they're talking about money, but want you to think they're talking about ideas. "Your samples are incredible," he said. "Honestly, such a steal. I'm thrilled we came early." My smile twitched. "Samples?" He laughed, conspiratorial. "Vivian said these are prototypes like trials. Prices won't be this low once you start doing the real editions." I stared at him, like he'd told me my work was made out of papier-mâché. "I don't do editions," I said. "These are the real pieces." He blinked, confused. Ah, maybe I misunderstood. Across the room I saw it tiny letters under the red dot on the price label. Sample. S.A. MPL. My piece, discounted. Not by 10%. By almost half. My blood turned to steam. I found Vivian near the back office, joking with a board member from a museum that doesn't return my emails. Her eyes caught mine, and she slid toward me with a politician's smile. "What's up, Star?" she said, light, breezy. "What is this?" I held up the card from Skybridge. She glanced at it, then at me, already assembling her argument. "Market positioning," she said. "For your first solo, we want to lower the barrier. We're calling these samples like a soft drop. It brings in collectors who'll grow with you." "You sold my sculptures as samples?" The word tasted like rust. "Not all," she said quickly. "Just a few key pieces to seed the network. It's strategy. It works. You never asked me. I'm asking you now." Her tone softened the way it does when someone thinks you're about to embarrass yourself. "Look, Mari, you're phenomenal, but we have to be realistic. Detroit loves a bargain. Once we get your name floating in the right rooms, hello Beacon Foundation, your next show will be priced where it should be." My mouth tried to form words that weren't just sailor noise. "We have a contract." "We do," she said. "And the contract says, the gallery has discretion to adjust pricing to meet market demand. It's standard, 10%, I said. "Not half." She smiled wider, like we were discussing weather. "You'll see, it's for your own good." A clatter near the bar saved me from joining my sculpture in becoming a weapon. I went outside into the thick night and leaned against the brick, counting my breaths like I was steadying my hand for a cut. My phone buzzed. Notifications, mentions, an Insta story tagged at Vivian Lake Gallery over my work text, overlaid in bubbly font. Sample sale tonight, only. Mari Reyes. Get it while you can. I swiped through comments. Samples? Prototypes? Thought these were legit lol. Scored a sample for $2K, oh my god bless. I felt the world tilt. Years of welding burns and scrapyard bargaining, and sleeping on a cot in the studio, and the word sample undid the weld holding my name to my work. I went back in and found Tasha near the coat rack. Tasha's been my friend since community college, and once held a piece steady while hot slag sprayed her Doc Martens. Her eyes were already sharp. You good? She asked. No. I handed her my phone. She swiped, cursed under her breath. What did Vivian say? That it's strategy. Tasha's mouth flattened. She's laundering your value. If you're a sample now, you're a discount artist later. I know. Then pull the show. I can't. Fear crawled up my throat. Rent. Suppliers. The deposit from the gallery already spent on materials. The contract I'd skimmed like a fool because I wanted so badly to be inside this room. Tasha squeezed my shoulder. Then make noise. Inside, Vivian raised a toast. To Mari Detroit Steel with a pulse. Everyone applauded. I lifted my plastic cup so I wouldn't be the only one not moving. After midnight, the crowd thinned to donors and stragglers arguing about parking. I helped the last collector wrap a bronze leaf and walked it to his Tesla while he told me how Detroit is having a moment and how I need to capitalize. Like the city was a sale I could catch with a promo code. Back inside, Vivian handed me an envelope. Partial disbursement, she said. Accounting will send the rest next week. I didn't need math to know it was light. I still took it. People like me are trained to take what's offered with a smile, then cry in parking lots we do not own. When I finally made it back to the studio, the city had settled into that thin quiet that makes every sound carry. I turned on the work light. My pieces that didn't make the show waited in the shadows like a chorus. I dropped the envelope on the workbench and opened my laptop to the contract. There it was, hiding in legalese, pricing adjustments for promotional purposes at the gallery's sole discretion. Meant to be 10% absolute max, verbally assured during the handshake, written vaguely on paper. My stupidity bloomed like a bruise. An email pinged. From gallery admin. Subject: Congrats, Mari. Post-show logistics plus invoices. Attached: a spreadsheet. I clicked. Line items. Buyer names. Prices. A column labeled sample rate. 60% of my list prices. A note at the bottom. VIP morning pickup tomorrow 8 a.m. I scrolled. Next to Engine Heart, the one that took half my summer and 3 burned fingertips, a note. Hold for board special sample consideration. Something inside me went quiet. Not empty. Just quiet. Like the seconds right before you lower the torch and everything brightens to white. I called Vivian. Straight to voicemail. I didn't leave a message. I didn't trust my voice to make a shape that wasn't grief. Tasha texted at 1:07 a.m. You up? Yeah. Come outside. She was there in her dented pickup, idling by the curb, eyes rimmed with late-night resolve. Get in, she said. We're going back. To do what? Whatever gets your name off her sale tags. I almost said no. I almost said I'd sleep and deal with it in the morning. Like an adult. Like a polite ruin. But a different sentence leaped out of me. Wait. I looked at the steel plates stacked near my drill press flat, oval tags I used to test patinas. I saw them bolted to the city, not just a gallery wall. I saw a trail, a spine through Detroit, each piece carrying a story stamped into metal that no one could discount. I grabbed a stamping set, the heavy mallet, the plates. My hands remembered the rhythm. VIVIA, NLA, KECA, LLED, THIS, ASA, MP, LE. I struck each letter until the plate sang. Then another line. HIS, WORKISNOT. FORSALEATADISCOUNT. Tasha watched, mouth open. What are you doing? I lifted the first tag, felt the weight of it settle into my palm like a promise. If she wants to control the story, I said, breath steady now. Let's tell mine louder. Tasha smiled like she'd been waiting all night to see which way I'd fall. Okay, Reyes. Where's the first bolt going? I looked at the map of Detroit in my head, Mexican town to Midtown to the riverfront. A route written in steel and fury. I put on my jacket, pocketed the plates, and turned off the lights. The studio door closed with a metallic click, loud in the thin, sleeping hour. We stepped into the night, and then my phone buzzed again, an unknown number. A text. Careful, Mari. You're not the first artist to fight her. Meet me before you make a move. Eastern Market, 7 a.m. Bring proof. My thumb hovered over the screen. Proof, I thought, feeling the stamped letters bite into my palm. I had more than proof. I had a story. And now, I had a plan. The city was still half asleep when I pulled my hoodie tight against the chill. Detroit at 6:45 a.m. Smells like bread trucks, diesel, and wet iron. Tasha parked near Eastern Market, tapping the steering wheel like she was trying to drum courage into both of us. You sure about this mystery texter? She asked. Nope. And you're still going? Yep. The text looped in my head. Careful, Mari. You're not the first artist to fight her. The words felt like a warning wrapped in bait. I stuffed 2 steel tags into my pocket and carried the third in my hand. The letters glared up at me. Vivian Lake called this a sample. Eastern Market was waking. Forklifts beeped. Workers shouted over crates of produce. Murals spread across brick walls, wild colors that looked like they refused to dry. I waited near a pillar, painted with a fox's face. At exactly 7, a man in a battered Carhartt jacket limped toward me. You Reyes? He asked. Depends. You the one who texted me? He nodded. Name's Nate. I used to show at Lake's gallery. He smelled faintly of turpentine and cigarettes. His hands had the permanent stains of a painter. What happened to you? I asked. He gave a dry laugh. Same thing happening to you. She sold half my canvases at trial prices. Told collectors I was unproven. A year later, guess what I was? Unproven. My name's poison now. The words hit me like slag popping against bare skin. Why text me? I asked. Because you're loud. Loud in your work, loud in your anger. I saw your stories last night. You're about to make trouble. He leaned closer. Make it count. From his pocket, he pulled a folded sheet, an old invoice, stamped with sample rate in thick black letters. She's been doing this for years, he said. Different artists, same play. Undercut, control, discard. The paper shook in my hand. Evidence. Proof. Not just me screaming in an empty warehouse. Tasha's voice cut the tension. Cool history lesson, but what do we do with it? I held up my steel tag. This goes here. We walked to a wall by the market entrance, half hidden behind a row of dumpsters. I pulled out the cordless drill from my backpack, pressed the tag flat against the brick, and bolted it in. The sound was harsh, echoing through the morning air. People stared. A vendor shouted, "Hey, what's that?" When I stepped back, the plate glinted in the weak Sunday. The words screamed louder than spray paint ever could. This work is not for sale at a discount. My chest burned with adrenaline. For the first time since the opening, I felt like my name wasn't bleeding out of me. Nate grinned, teeth crooked. You just started a trail. Tasha slapped my shoulder. You're insane, but I love it. We headed back toward the truck when my phone buzzed again. A new notification. Instagram. Someone had already posted a photo of the tag. Caption: Guerrilla art in Eastern Market. Reyes strikes back? The comments lit up like fireworks. Samples. Yo, this is iconic. Finally, someone calling out gallery scams. I felt a jolt fear mixed with power. Once the story left my hands, it would travel faster than I could chase it. But as the dopamine of rebellion settled, another thought slid in cold and sharp. Vivian. She would see this. She would know it was me. And Vivian Lake wasn't the type to let a spectacle pass quietly. By noon, my inbox would be full. By tonight, I'd either be invisible again or radioactive. And then my phone rang. Her name flashed on the screen. Vivian Lake. Tasha's eyes widened. You gonna answer? I stared at the phone, heartbeat kicking against my ribs. If I picked up, I was walking into her game. If I let it ring, I was declaring war. The buzz rattled through my hand. I took a breath and swiped to accept. Marigold, Vivian's voice purred. We need to talk. Her voice was calm, velvet over razor wire. Marigold, Vivian said, stretching my name like she owned it. I saw your little stunt at Eastern Market. Very creative. I glanced at Tasha, who mouthed, hang up. Instead, I said, not as creative as calling my work a clearance rack. Vivian laughed softly. The way people laugh when they're not amused but want you to feel small. You're emotional. I get it. First solo shows are overwhelming. But this, what you're doing, it's reckless. Do you really want to burn the bridge you just built? Bridge? My voice rose. You didn't build me a bridge, Vivian. You sold me for parts. Silence on the line. For a second, I thought she'd hung up. Then she said, lower now. Listen carefully. If you keep this trail business up, you won't just hurt me. You'll hurt yourself. Collectors don't buy into drama. They buy stability, professionalism. You'll kill your career before it even starts. Her words dug into my ribs. The logical part of me whispered she wasn't wrong. In the art world, reputation was currency. And right now, I was cashing mine out on a gamble. But then I pictured the sample sale tonight story over my sculpture. The betrayal flared hot again. Funny thing about steel, I said. You put pressure on it, it bends. You put fire on it, it hardens. Vivian sighed. Marigold, don't be dramatic. Take the partial payment I gave you, let us handle the rest, and stay quiet. That's how you survive in this city. Or, I said, feeling the steel tag heavy in my hand, I can show the city exactly what survival looks like. Her tone sharpened. Be very careful. The call ended. I stood there, shaking, adrenaline making my fingers tremble. Tasha leaned against the truck, arms crossed. Well, that sounded like a threat. It was. I shoved the phone into my pocket. And it sounded like permission. That afternoon, Nate came by my studio with a folder. Receipts, he said. Inside were contracts, invoices, and screenshots from artists who'd been burned by Vivian sculptors, painters, even a photographer whose work she'd called study pieces. She calls it positioning, Nate muttered. But it's theft with better lighting. I spread the papers across my workbench, the evidence fanning out like kindling, waiting for a spark. People need to see this, I said. Careful, Nate warned. Some of them are scared. They don't want their names attached. Vivian still has friends in high places. Museums, donors, reviewers. Tasha smirked. Guess what? Mari doesn't need their permission. She's building her own museum, one wall at a time. I looked around the studio, at the raw steel, the welding torch, the unfinished pieces. Maybe she was right. Maybe the city itself could be my gallery. But then, my phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't Vivian. It was a number I didn't recognize. Text. We saw your tag. We want to talk. Potential buyer. Tonight, 9 p.m. Lafayette Coney. A buyer? Already? Or a setup? I read it aloud. Tasha raised an eyebrow. That's either a steak dinner or a trap. Nate shrugged. In this town, could be both. I weighed the options. If it was real, I couldn't afford to miss it. If it was Vivian's trick, I'd need backup. I looked at Tasha. You in? Always. Then at Nate. He hesitated. If this goes sideways, I don't have much left to lose anyway. We agreed. Lafayette Coney. 9 p.m. As the sun went down, I prepped more tags, each one heavier than the last. Stamped with truth. Stamped with fury. But under the hammer's rhythm, my chest tightened. What if Vivian was right? What if I was branding myself radioactive? What if the whole city decided to believe her over me? The mallet slipped, sparking off the edge of the plate. I hissed through my teeth. Tasha touched my shoulder. Hey, don't spiral. You're not wrong. She's wrong. All we're doing is making sure people see it. I nodded, swallowing down the storm. By 8:45, we were in the truck, steel plates rattling in the back like armor. Downtown lights flickered on as we pulled into the greasy glow of Lafayette, Coney Island. Inside, the air smelled of onions, fry oil, and midnight decisions. A man sat in the corner booth, suit too expensive for this place, eating chili fries with surgical precision. When he saw me, he smiled like he'd been waiting all night. Mari Reyes, he said, standing. His voice was smooth, practiced. Finally. I was hoping we could do business. He slid a black card onto the table. Embossed letters. Edmund Klein. Art Investments. My stomach flipped. I'd heard his name whispered before one of Detroit's most aggressive collectors, rumored to make or break artists with a single purchase. But why was he here? And why now? Tasha leaned in and whispered, "This guy smells like trouble." Edmund gestured to the booth. "Sit. Let's talk about your trail." Edmund's suit looked like it cost more than my truck. Even in the neon hum of Lafayette Coney, he had the aura of someone who never waited in line. He slid the plate of chili fries across the table. "Eat," he said casually. "You'll need your strength. You're about to change the Detroit art market." I didn't touch the fries. Instead, I kept my eyes locked on his. "Why are you here?" Edmund steepled his fingers, smirk playing at the edges of his mouth. "Because you've done something artists dream about and collectors fear. You've made the story bigger than the work. Every tag you bolt to a wall doesn't just fight Vivian, it creates demand. People will want the art and the rebellion." Tasha shifted beside me, crossing her arms. "And you just want to help out of the goodness of your rich boy heart?" He ignored her, leaning toward me. "I can amplify you. Media contacts, influencers, private buyers who'd pay double just to say they owned one of your unsanctioned pieces. You play this right, and Vivian Lake will choke on your name." My pulse quickened, but I forced myself to ask, "And what do you get?" Edmund's grin widened. "Exclusivity, first pick on your future works. A stake in the Reyes Trail, let's call it. You become the brand. I become the bank." The word brand scraped against me. I thought of the sweat, the burns, the hours of shaping metal until my back screamed. I wasn't a brand, I was a person. Still, the idea of funding, of stability, of finally not choosing between rent and welding gas. I caught Tasha's glare. She saw the hesitation in me. "Don't do it, Mari," she hissed. "Guys like him don't build ladders, they build cages." Edmund chuckled softly. "You think small, friend. I'm offering Mari the chance to rewrite the rules. Vivian used you. I'll make you untouchable." Nate finally spoke up from the end of the booth. Voice rough. "I've seen your kind before. You don't buy art, you buy leverage. Vivian burns artists fast, you'll just burn 'em slower." Edmund shot him a glance sharp enough to cut. "Some of us know how to play the long game, Mari. The question is, do you?" The diner clatter filled the silence. Plates slammed. Someone shouted an order. Inside our booth, it felt like the air had thinned to a thread. I thought of my father's welding torch, the first line of molten light I'd ever drawn, of my mother's voice when she told me, "Mijita, fight for your worth." Of Vivian's smirk when she said, "It's for your own good." I pushed the fries back across the table. "You want a brand. I want my name back. Those are not the same thing." Edmund leaned back, eyes narrowing. "You're walking away from protection, from money, from power." I stood. "No, I'm walking toward mine." Tasha and Nate followed. As we stepped into the cold night, Edmund called after me. "Careful, Reyes. Without someone like me on your side, Vivian won't just fight you in public, she'll bury you in the dark." The door slammed behind us, shutting out his voice but not the weight of his warning. Back in the truck, silence stretched. Tasha broke it first. "You know he's gonna come back, right? Guys like that don't hear no." "I know," I said, staring out at the city lights. "And Vivian won't sit still either. The second tag's going up tonight." Nate frowned. "That's fuel on the fire." Good," I said. "I want a blaze." We drove toward the riverfront. The air off the water carried the bite of rust and gasoline. I chose a spot under the bridge, where commuters would see it in daylight. As I drilled the plate into concrete, sparks flew, lighting the shadows around us. The words carved themselves into the city. The Vian Lake sold this as a sample. Reyes says, "Full price or nothing." The echo of the drill faded. My chest pounded with something fierce and alive. But just as I stepped back to admire the tag, headlights flashed across the underpass. A black SUV rolled up slow, too clean for this part of town. The window lowered. Vivian's face glowed in the pale wash of dashboard light. "Mari," she called, her voice cutting through the night. "This ends now." Vivian's voice had that edge to it, the one that said she didn't need to raise her voice because she already knew you'd listen. I didn't. "Get out of the car, Vivian," I called, my voice loud enough to carry over the sound of the river below. She stepped out of the SUV, smooth as always, the city lights catching the gleam of her pearl-white heels. It was like watching a shark in a tailored dress. "You really want to keep doing this?" she asked, her gaze flicking to the steel tag I'd just bolted into the concrete. I squared my shoulders. "You've been doing it for me all along. Now I'm just returning the favor." Tasha and Nate hung back, standing in the shadows, waiting for the fallout to start. I could feel the tension between us, like we were all bracing for the crash. Vivian's eyes flickered to them, then back to me. "This is self-destructive, Mari. You're making a spectacle of yourself." "Funny," I said. "I thought I was the one making art." She smiled thinly. "Art, sure. But this is just revenge, Mari. And revenge never ends well for the artist. It destroys what makes you unique. Your vision, your voice. You're letting your ego lead, and that's going to eat you alive." I could feel the sting of her words, but I refused to flinch. The idea that I was out of control, that I was ruining my own career, hit hard. I knew the stakes, but I wasn't the one who started the game. "Maybe you're right," I said, lowering my voice. "Maybe I'm letting my anger lead, but you know what? It feels good. It feels real." "Real?" Her laugh was cold. "Mari, you're playing checkers, and I'm playing chess. Every move you make, I'm already 2 steps ahead." I stood my ground. "Then show me your next move." She stepped closer, closing the gap between us. "Fine. But know this: if you keep pushing, if you keep tagging walls and showing your truth, I will bury you. Your name won't just be smeared. It'll be erased from the art scene altogether. Trust me, I know how to make people forget." For a second, I considered the weight of her threat. How many careers had she destroyed already? How many artists had she chewed up and spit out in the name of power? But I'd had enough of being silenced. "You don't get to erase me," I said, my voice low, fierce. "I've spent too long in this city, fighting for every inch of recognition. You think I'm scared of being erased? No. I'm scared of letting you win." Vivian tilted her head slightly, studying me like I was a puzzle she hadn't quite figured out. Her expression softened just a fraction. "You're playing a dangerous game, Mari. You could be so much more than this. You could have everything if you just stopped fighting for your ego." I felt my heart race. The old wounded part of me, the part that wanted her approval, that wanted to play the game, her way, itched to listen. But the new part of me, the part that had worked until my hands bled, the part that had poured myself into every piece, was done with letting someone else control my value. "I'm not fighting for my ego," I said quietly. "I'm fighting for my work, for my name." Vivian's smile faded. "Fine. But don't say I didn't warn you." She turned on her heel and strode back to her SUV, the gravel crunching under her heels, as if to mark the end of the conversation. But I knew better than to think it was over. This wasn't a battle, it was the beginning of a war. The next few days, blurred by in a rush of phone calls, social media posts, and unexpected messages from collectors who seemed oddly curious about my rebellious art. People were following the story now, talking about it in whispers. The city was alive with the buzz of a fight it didn't even know it was witnessing, but I couldn't ignore the mounting pressure. The spotlight was on me, and with it came scrutiny. Tasha kept texting me updates from the galleries and collectors, all of them watching, waiting to see if I would blink. The art world was an open wound, and I'd just poured salt in it. Nate, too, had become more involved, showing me new documents and emails he'd dug up about other artists Vivian had managed. It was all lining up. Her strategy wasn't just about controlling pricing, it was about making sure she was the center of the conversation. But even as I watched my social media explode with comments, the weight of Vivian's threat lingered in the back of my mind. "I'll bury you." What if she could? What if, despite all the noise I was making, the connections she had in the industry were too strong? What if I wasn't strong enough to hold my ground? But then I thought about the faces I'd seen at my opening, the people who really got my work, who saw the weight of every line, every curve of metal. And I remembered what Tasha had said earlier. Make noise, make them hear you. I couldn't stop now. I wouldn't stop. The day after Vivian's visit, I stood in front of my latest piece. A twisted mass of wire, copper, and glass that had taken weeks to assemble. It wasn't finished, not yet, but it was a message, a statement. Something more than just a piece of art, it was my declaration of intent. As I welded the final connection, my phone buzzed again. Another text from an unknown number. "You've got one last chance. Meet me, 10 p.m., behind the Riverwalk. I have something you need to see." Kanji. I didn't hesitate. "Let's go," I said to Tasha and Nate, grabbing my jacket and heading for the door. The Riverwalk was empty at night, the water shimmering under the streetlights. I kept my eyes on the darkened path ahead, waiting for whoever wanted to play the next card in this game. By the time we reached the back alley behind the Riverwalk, the only sound was the faint echo of our footsteps. Then, a figure stepped from the shadows. A man, tall, wearing a hooded jacket. "I'm glad you came," he said. His voice was familiar. I didn't need to ask who he was. "Edmund," I said. He stepped forward, holding something in his hand. It glinted in the dim light, another steel plate, identical to the ones I'd been using. He held it out to me. "Consider this your next move," he said. The plate gleamed under the weak street lamp, cold steel catching the shimmer of the river. I took it from Edmund's hand, the weight familiar, grounding. Stamped into the metal were words that froze me. Sold as sample original value, erased. Artist. R. Devereaux. I ran my fingers over the letters, feeling the grooves. "R. Devereaux," I whispered. "Who's this?" Edmund leaned against the railing, watching me like a cat that had dropped a dead bird at my feet. "Rebecca Devereaux. She was a painter, phenomenal, brutal in her colors. Vivian did to her what she's doing to you." Except Rebecca didn't fight back. She folded, disappeared, moved to God knows where. Her career's a ghost now. Tasha squinted at him. "And you just happened to have her plate? Convenient." Edmund smirked. "Let's say I've been following Vivian's trail longer than you realize. She's predictable. She builds artists up, then discounts them into oblivion, makes them dependent. And when they're no longer profitable, gone." I stared at the plate. Someone else's story, etched in steel, unfinished. "Why give this to me?" he shrugged. "Because you're different. You're not folding. You're turning her game into a spectacle. That makes you dangerous. And dangerous people I like to invest in." His words curled in the air like smoke. Investment, ownership, control. He kept circling back to the same offer. Nate spat on the ground. "He's playing you, Reyes. Just like she did." Edmund's eyes flicked to Nate, then back to me. "Believe what you want. But here's the truth. Vivian won't stop until you're nothing. I'm the only one who can shield you from the fallout. My connections make her nervous." I felt the weight of the plate in my hand again. Rebecca Devereaux's silence screamed louder than anything I could say. "What if I don't want shielding?" I asked. "What if I just want to burn her house down?" Edmund's smile widened. "Then let me hand you the matches." We left him standing by the river, his silhouette sharp against the city skyline. Back in the truck, I turned the plate over and over in my hands. Each letter was a wound, each word a reminder that I wasn't the first. Tasha finally broke the silence. You know he's baiting you, right? He's dangling someone else's pain so you'll do what he wants. I know, I said quietly. But he's not wrong. If Rebecca lost everything, how many others have? Nate muttered. Too many. And none of them had the guts to fight back. The air in the truck was thick, pressing in on me. My trail wasn't just about me anymore, it was about every artist who'd been crushed under Vivian's polished heel. But Edmund's shadow loomed. If I took his help, even indirectly, would I just be trading one kind of leash for another? I pressed the plate against my chest and whispered, then we make this bigger than both of them. The next day, I set up in my studio with Tasha and Nate. We spread out the tags, the invoices Nate had collected, the photos of Rebecca's plate. This isn't just a trail anymore, I said. It's a map. A record of every artist she's buried. We're going to show the city exactly how she operates. Piece by piece. Plate by plate. Tasha's grin was feral. You're talking about a full-blown guerrilla exhibition. Exactly. Nate frowned. She'll fight harder than ever. She's got lawyers, money, pull. Good, I said. Let her. As I spoke, I started sketching out a plan. Locations, sequences, themes. The city would become the gallery, and each tag would tell a story not just about me, but about every name she tried to erase. But then another buzz. My phone lit up. From Vivian, cute trick last night. But you're playing with fire. Come to the gallery tomorrow morning, alone, or I'll release something you won't like. My stomach dropped. Something I wouldn't like. What does she have on you? Tasha asked, reading my face. I didn't answer right away, because I didn't know. But the way Vivian played the game, it could be anything. Contracts twisted, false rumors, maybe even buyers she'd poisoned against me already. I clenched my fists around the plate. If she wanted me alone, she was planning something. But I wasn't planning on walking in blind. The next morning, gray light stretched across the city as I approached the gallery. My heart beat like a war drum. I had one plate in my bag, the Devereaux plate. If Vivian thought she had leverage, I had a story to fight back with. Inside, the gallery was empty. Too empty. No staff, no assistants, just the echo of my boots against polished concrete. Vivian stood at the far end, arms folded, waiting like a queen on her throne. Mari, she said smoothly, I knew you'd come. Let's talk about your future. The gallery was eerily quiet. Empty pedestals stood where my sculptures had once been. The air smelled faintly of floor polish and abandonment. Vivian waited at the far end of the room, framed by the tall white walls, like a painting herself, poised, immaculate, untouchable. You're dramatic, Mari, she said, her voice carrying too easily in the hollow space. Dragging this city into your tantrum. But you've had your fun. Now it's time to be smart. I tightened my grip on the bag slung over my shoulder. Inside, Rebecca Devereaux's plate felt heavy, like it was burning through the canvas. Smart? I shot back. Smart would have been not selling my life's work at a discount without asking. Her smile didn't crack. You're still thinking too small. The sample strategy was for your benefit. You think I wanted to lower your prices? No. And now, because of me, your name is everywhere. Because of me, I corrected. Because I refused to stay quiet. Her eyes sharpened, finally showing a glint of anger. You're not the first artist who thought they could fight me. You've heard of Rebecca Devereaux? I froze. The name cut through me like cold steel. Vivian smirked. Of course you have. She was a firebrand once, just like you. Talented, loud, but she refused to play the game. And where is she now? Gone. Forgotten. That's what happens when you fight the hand that feeds you. I slowly reached into my bag and pulled out the plate, the steel gleaming under the gallery lights. I held it up so Vivian could see the stamped letters, sold as sample original value erased. Artist R. Devereaux. Her smile faltered. Just for a moment, but I saw it. You don't get to rewrite our history, I said. My voice echoed against the walls. Not hers, not mine, not anyone's. Vivian's composure returned, but now it felt thinner, like stretched glass. Cute. So you've got a piece of scrap metal. Do you think that will protect you? Do you think anyone important cares about some forgotten painter? I stepped closer. I think people care about the truth. And I've got more than this plate. Invoices, emails, artists lining up to tell their stories. You've built your empire on silence, Vivian. I'm done being silent. Her eyes flicked toward the door, and I realized then she wasn't alone. A shadow moved in the hallway. Two men stepped in, dressed in dark suits, carrying the kind of presence that screamed lawyers or muscle. Vivian's voice softened, almost pitying. This is your last chance, Mari. Walk away. Take the rest of your payment. Sign a statement saying you misunderstood the pricing strategy, and this all disappears. You'll get another show better than the first. Sponsors, press, stability, everything you've ever wanted. She leaned closer, her perfume sharp, suffocating. Or, you can keep playing rebel and watch your career vanish like Devereaux's. The room spun around me, my heart slamming in my chest. Tasha's warning echoed in my head. She'll bury you. Nate's gruff voice followed. She's done it before. But I thought of my father's torch, of my mother's faith, of the trail I'd already begun, each plate a scar on the city's skin, each word a truth no collector could erase. I held Vivian's gaze. You made one mistake, I said. Her brow arched. Oh? You thought I wanted your future. I dropped the plate on the floor with a clang that echoed through the empty gallery. I'm building my own. The suits took a step forward. But before they could move closer, the front doors banged open. Tasha stormed in, phone raised high, live streaming. Nate followed, carrying a stack of invoices and contracts in his arms. Smile, Vivian, Tasha called, her voice sharp and electric. You're on camera. Vivian froze. Her perfect mask cracked, and for the first time, I saw fear flicker in her eyes. Vivian's mask shattered in an instant. Her lips pressed into a thin, brittle line as Tasha's phone streamed live to dozens then hundreds of viewers. Turn that off, Vivian snapped, her voice sharp as broken glass. Nope, Tasha shot back, holding the phone higher. Detroit's watching now. Say hi. The comments rolled up the screen faster than I could read. Is that Vivian Lake? What's going on? Number sample scam is trending. Vivian's composure faltered. She glanced at her suited men, but they hesitated, knowing every move was being recorded. Nate dropped the stack of invoices on the pristine gallery floor, papers fanning out like a storm. Every artist you've scammed, he growled. Your whole playbook, in black and white. The sound of fluttering pages was deafening in the silence. Vivian tried to recover, smoothing her dress like she could smooth the entire situation. This is slander, she said coldly. Unfounded, exaggerated. Receipts don't lie, I cut in. My voice was steady, fueled by months, years of swallowed rage. You sold my work as samples. You did it to Rebecca Devereaux. You've done it to countless others, but not anymore. This city won't forget. I lifted the steel plate from the floor and held it up to the camera. Rebecca's story gleaming in the gallery lights. Vivian Lake called this art a sample. I call it priceless. The comments exploded. Holy sht. Asterisk. Protect Mari at all costs. Guerrilla Trail Tour, when Vivian's face drained of color. Her empire, the one built on whispered deals and quiet exploitation, was crumbling in real time. You're finished, she hissed, but the venom had no bite. No, I said. You are. The fallout came fast. By the next morning, number sample scam was on every Detroit feed. Photos of my tags spread like wildfire, each one a story, each one a monument. People started hunting them, posting selfies with the plates, mapping the trail like it was a treasure hunt. Collectors called not to Vivian, but to me. Direct, no middlewoman. For the first time, they weren't buying because of hype. They were buying because they wanted to be part of the story. Rebecca Devereaux reached out too. A message from a small town in Ohio. Thank you. For remembering me. For fighting back. Her words made my chest ache, but they also lit a fire. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about legacy. Vivian tried to spin it, of course. She released statements, claimed she'd been misunderstood. even threatened lawsuits. But the trail had already burned through the city. Once truth catches fire, no press release can smother it. Edmund Klein called again, too, this time with a sweeter tone. See? I told you you'd need someone like me, he purred. But I didn't answer. I didn't need him. Weeks later, I stood on the riverfront, welding the final plate of the trail into place. This one wasn't stamped with betrayal or anger. It read, "My work is not a sample, neither am I. Mari Reyes." Tasha filmed it, her grin wide. Nate handed me a cold beer when I was done. Around us, people stopped, watched, clapped even. For the first time in months, I let myself breathe. Vivian's gallery still existed, but its shine had dimmed. Collectors whispered caution, artists pulled out of contracts, and her empire cracked. As for me, my studio was alive, orders stacked up, collaborations poured in, and the trail became more than just revenge. It became a living museum, one the city itself carried. Detroit hummed around me, steel and grit and stubborn fire. I ran my hand over the last plate, the letters hot from the weld. I had reclaimed my name, my value, my story, and I wasn't done. Because this city had more walls, and I had more steel.